You say you're strong, and yet your eyes look tired from carrying what you never speak. You keep showing up, wearing the same calm face, smiling just enough, nodding at all the right moments, and no one knows that you've been slowly drowning in a silence that you've named strength. They call you brave, but they don't see how often you cry behind the bathroom door. They don't see the nights you lie awake rehearsing conversations you'll never have. They don't hear the thoughts you hush because you're afraid of what they might mean. You've learned how to function with a bleeding heart. You've mastered the art of distraction, burying your needs beneath routines, obligations, and fake laughter. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe that falling apart would make you weak, that asking for help would ruin the image, that showing your cracks would be the same as shattering. But let me ask you something. What if this strength you're clinging to isn't real? What if it's just another mask? Beautiful, polished, convincing, but still a mask. What if being strong is how you hide from the world and from yourself? You weren't born to survive in silence. You weren't meant to carry everything alone. And that ache in your chest, that constant tension in your shoulders, it's not just stress, it's your soul begging for honesty. There is a quiet kind of grief that comes from pretending to be okay. And sometimes the deepest suffering is not what happens to us, but the lie we keep telling ourselves that I'm fine, I can handle it. But what if you didn't have to? What if breaking wasn't the end, but the beginning? What if the parts you've been hiding are the most human, the most beautiful, the most deserving of love? And what if this moment, this ache, this pause, isn't weakness at all, but the exact moment where your real strength begins to speak? Let that question echo. Because maybe the strongest thing you can do right now is stop pretending you're not in pain. You learned early how to disappear without leaving the room, to be there, but not really, to smile on cue, say the right things, and stay out of the way of disappointment. It started small. A quiet shift in your posture when someone you loved got upset. A careful edit in your tone when you sensed rejection. A decision, almost invisible, to be easier to love by being less yourself. And slowly, this became a script. Not a conscious one, not a dramatic one, just a quiet, relentless rehearsal of who you thought you needed to be safe. You stopped sharing too much. You started laughing at things you didn't find funny. You became fluent in emotional translation, turning fear into jokes, anger into silence, sadness into, I'm just tired. But it wasn't strength. It was survival. It was the invisible theater of self-denial, and no one applauds you for it, because they don't know it's happening. You live in what I call the glass cage. It's transparent, elegant, socially acceptable. You move through life, look functional, even successful, but inside, you're screaming through the silence. There's a kind of pain that doesn't bleed, a kind of emptiness that doesn't echo. You become so good at hiding that even you forget where the mask ends and the truth begins. The world loves people like you, quietly responsible, emotionally available for others. But somewhere in that performance, you disappeared. And now when someone asks, how are you really? You panic, because the truth is, you don't know anymore. You've confused coping with healing. You've mistaken being needed with being seen. And you've carried this armor for so long that the idea of setting it down feels more terrifying than comforting. But here's what no one told you. You are not the mask. You are not the calm voice or the patient friend or the one who always has it together. You are the storm beneath the surface, the scream you've silenced, the ache you've translated into responsibility and politeness. And I wonder, what would happen if you let yourself be seen without the script? If you said the things you've been swallowing for years? What if love didn't have to be earned by pretending? What if being messy, lost, unsure, wasn't something to hide, but something to honor? You were not born to perform. You were not meant to earn space by being palatable. You do not exist to make everyone else comfortable. There is no badge for being emotionally invisible. There is no reward for breaking quietly. And all those years you spent being strong, maybe they weren't strength at all. Maybe they were fear dressed up as discipline. Maybe you were just trying not to be abandoned. But listen closely, There's a version of you still untouched by this performance. A version that remembers softness, that longs for truth. A version that doesn't need to hide. And maybe, just maybe, that version is waiting for you to stop trying so hard to be who you think you're supposed to be, so it can finally breathe. Because the real you isn't the mask. It's the one who's been suffocating beneath it. Drop the mask for a moment. If you could say one thing you've been hiding for years, just one raw truth, what would it be? Write it below like no one's watching. We'll read it like your soul finally spoke. Pain has a quiet way of shaping us. Not with violence, but with repetition. Like water carving stone. Not all at once, but drop by drop, moment by moment, until one day, you realize you've changed. And not because you chose to, but because you had to. That smile you wear so effortlessly, it was born from rejection. You learned to shine just bright enough to not be forgotten, but never so bright that it threatened anyone. You became agreeable, helpful, easy to love. Not because it was your nature, but because being you never felt safe. That silence you carry like a second skin, it was born from absence. Someone should have listened. Someone should have held you. But instead, your pain echoed in empty rooms. And so you taught yourself to never need too much, never feel too deeply, never ask out loud. That strength everyone praises, it was born from heartbreak. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that lingers. The kind that made you promise, deep down, never again. I'll never be that vulnerable again. But the truth is, you're still carrying all of it. All those years you stayed quiet when you wanted to scream. All those moments you said, I'm fine, when your chest was caving in. All the times you made yourself small just to be allowed in the room. This isn't just emotional pain. It's soul fatigue. It's the ache of 1,000 unsaid words, 1,000 unmet needs, 1,000 versions of you that were never allowed to exist. And no one talks about this. No one talks about how trauma isn't always a single explosion. Sometimes it's a slow erosion. A lifetime of subtle wounds. A father who never asked how you were. A friend who only called when they needed something. A partner who loved you conditionally. And now, you walk through life feeling numb. Not broken, not destroyed. Just distant. From joy, from presence, from yourself. Because how can you feel alive when everything inside you had to be buried just to survive? But what if I told you, your pain has not made you weak, it's made you real. It's carved depth into your soul. It's given you eyes that see beyond the surface, a heart that recognizes hurt in others before they even speak. This is not your ruin, it's your becoming. And I know that sounds strange, because we're taught that pain is something to escape. But in the Buddhist path, suffering isn't a detour, it's the very doorway to awakening. Every heartbreak is a crack where light can enter. Every silence is a space where truth can echo. Every tear you've hidden is a seed of compassion waiting to bloom. You don't need to erase the pain. You need to listen to it. Let it speak. Let it show you where you left yourself behind. Let it guide you back to the moments where you stopped believing you were worthy of softness, of love, of being held just as you are. Because your story is sacred, and your wounds, they are not signs of failure. They are maps, leading you back to the version of yourself that never needed to hide. So pause for a moment, not to fix anything, not to pretend you're healing, but just to feel, to finally let yourself be with what you've been running from. The sadness, the anger, the loneliness, and then ask gently like a whisper, what have you been trying to tell me all this time? You've spent so long gripping life with both hands, controlling, holding, bracing for the next storm. But what if the storm is already over, and you're still sheltering from a rain that no longer falls? Letting go doesn't feel safe when you've only ever survived by holding on to people, to identities, to patterns that once protected you, but now only keep you stuck. There's a weight we carry when we confuse tension with protection. You tense your jaw when emotions rise. You brace your chest when someone gets too close. You hold your breath in moments that should feel soft. But letting go is not surrendering to chaos. It's surrendering to truth. It's the moment you stop defending the version of yourself you had to become. The version that always says yes. The version that smiles through discomfort. The version that thinks love is earned through perfection. And here's the paradox. The less you try to be accepted, the more you become undeniable. Because authenticity is magnetic, not the polished kind, but the raw, trembling, unscripted kind. The kind that says, I don't have it all together, but I'm here, and I'm real. Letting go looks like this. It's unclenching your fists, even if you're not sure what they're holding. It's walking away from people who only loved the version of you that suffered quietly. It's choosing rest when your guilt tells you to be productive. It's crying in front of someone and not apologizing for it. It's laughing too loud, saying too much, taking up space. It's no longer making yourself digestible. Because freedom isn't found in fixing yourself. It's found in forgiving yourself for ever thinking you were broken. In Buddhism, we speak of non-attachment, not as a cold distance, but as a warm release. Letting life come and go without clinging. Letting yourself be in flux, in flow, in truth. When you let go, you stop trying to control how others see you. You stop explaining your pain to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop performing healing and start living it. Letting go is not about indifference. It's about choosing what you carry and realizing that much of what's been weighing you down was never really yours. That guilt you feel when you rest, it was inherited. That pressure to prove your worth, conditioned. That voice in your head that says, you're not enough. A ghost from someone else's story. So what happens when you stop gripping that narrative? You begin to breathe, fully, deeply, as if for the first time. You begin to live without permission. You begin to love without fear. You begin to walk, not for applause, not for validation, but for the quiet joy of finally feeling your own feet touch the earth. Letting go means trusting life again, even if it once broke you. It means trusting yourself again, even if you once disappeared inside your own silence. It means no longer needing to be saved, because you realize you were never lost, just hidden, under layers of pretending, pleasing, performing. And now, you return to yourself, not as a final destination, but as a daily act of self-liberation. Let go of the need to be understood. Let go of the past version of you who only knew survival. Let go of the guilt that rises when you finally choose yourself. Because freedom doesn't scream, it whispers. And right now, it's whispering. You don't have to keep carrying this. You are allowed to be light, to move without armor, to laugh without fear of being too much, to cry without fear of being too sensitive, to exist as you are, not as who they needed, not as who you pretended to be, but as who you were before the world told you to be anything else. There is a moment, quiet, unassuming, where everything stops, not because the pain is gone, not because the answers have come, but because you finally stop fighting yourself. It's not a dramatic surrender. It's not a cinematic breakthrough. It's more like an exhale. After years of holding your breath, you sit in a room that looks the same. The walls haven't changed. The world hasn't paused for your awakening. But something inside you has shifted. You're no longer begging to be fixed. You're no longer chasing the version of yourself you think will be loved. You're no longer resisting the parts of you that ache, tremble, doubt. You are simply here, present, with everything, with the scars, the softness, the longing, with the broken pieces you used to hide. And this is the beginning of healing, not in the way you imagined, but in the way that feels like truth. Because real healing doesn't look like perfection. It looks like honesty. It looks like letting yourself be seen in all the places you once covered in silence. You start to notice things. The way your body tenses when you feel unworthy. The way your thoughts spiral when you're alone. The way you shrink around certain people. Not because they hurt you, but because they remind you of who you used to be. And instead of running, you stay. You breathe. You listen. There's wisdom in the wounds, not the kind written in books, but the kind whispered through tears, the kind learned in long nights and lonely mornings. In Buddhism, there's no promise that life will stop hurting, only the invitation to stop resisting what is. Because suffering, at its core, is not just pain. It's the war we wage against it. It's the way we clench against what we feel, the way we try to escape ourselves. But what if you stopped running? What if you sat with the ache like an old friend? What if you looked at your fear and said, I see you. You don't need to protect me anymore. What if you let the silence speak? You'd begin to understand that you were never broken, just overwhelmed, never weak, just carrying too much alone, never unworthy, just told too many times that you had to earn love. And now, you can choose something else. Not a new identity, not a new performance, but a deeper truth. That you are already enough. That your softness is not a flaw. It's a gift. That your sensitivity is not a burden. It's how your soul breathes. That your presence right now is the most honest prayer you can offer the world. You don't need a new version of yourself. You need the courage to return to the one that's been waiting beneath the noise. There's a sacred kind of silence that heals. It doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from no longer needing them. From finally sitting in your own skin and whispering, yes, even like this, I am worthy. So rest. Not because you've earned it, but because you're human. And because being human is enough. Let the noise fall away. Let the masks melt. Let the world spin without you for a while. And just be here, as you are. Not perfect, not polished, but real. And maybe, just maybe, that's all life has ever been asking of you. To come home, to stop the war, to be who you were before the world told you to be anything else. So here's the final question. What if everything you've been looking for is already inside the self you keep trying to change? And what if, just for today, you stopped fighting and simply let yourself be?